Hi, my name's Heather Hunt. I'm a chiropractor, craniosacral therapist, and I also practice functional medicine. A lot of people ask me how to eat. How do I recommend them eating? And the main thing I really recommend is, instead of any particular diet, is getting what I consider to be the proper food combinations, and also at the right times. So a lot of the people that come to see me are women, and a lot of them actually have low blood sugar in general, which is called hypoglycemia. You can tell if you have hypoglycemia, not so much on, sometimes on a blood test, but sometimes it can be your fasting glucose can be elevated due to running higher cortisol levels in the morning. That's your stress hormone. So it's really kind of better to think about hypoglycemia in terms of how you feel throughout the day. So people who have lower blood sugar in general really need to eat regularly. If they don't feel good. They'll get irritable, shaky, headaches, lightheaded, hangry, that kind of thing before they eat. And then eating makes them feel better. That's kind of classic hypoglycemia. Most of my people know they're already hypoglycemic when they come in or they eat that way. They know they can't go too long between meals, otherwise they don't feel good. And so I just explained to them what that is. That is a hypoglycemic tendency, and then how to eat for that. So that's what I'm going to be talking about here today. Basically, I want you to have a good mix of protein, fats, and carbs every time you eat. So what that looks like is proteins are like meats, full milk, full fat dairy, cheese. It can be in legumes, though those also have a lot of carbohydrates. Eggs are great protein. Nuts have pretty good protein. And then fats, which are like butter, olive oil, avocados, coconut oil, those sort of things, and carbohydrates. I think a lot of people forget that fruits and vegetables are carbohydrates, as well as complex carbs, which are like whole grains like brown rice, simple carbs, which are like refined grains like flours and white rice, and then sugars. Those are all carbs. Now, what's interesting about eating is that we want to have a mix of all three of those, because carbohydrates are what actually raise your blood sugar. And so when you have a hypoglycemic tendency, you actually need that carbohydrate to get the blood sugar up. And then the thing is we don't want it to crash back down again. So what you want to do is you want to eat something with the carbohydrates, not like sugar or refined, ideally the complex or a fruit and vegetable, get your blood sugar up. And then you want to have enough fat and protein so that it doesn't just drop right back down. It actually will go down slowly. So for instance, when you wake up in the morning, you want to have a protein and a fat and a carb. So you can have like eggs and vegetables and butter or avocado or cheese. You can have whole milk yogurt, which has protein and fat, and like a granola, which is a carb, preferably not with high amounts of sugar. I love, because most hypoglycemics don't like eating in the morning. It's hard to get breakfast in, but it's actually a really important meal. I love having a cup of tea with collagen in it, which has 11 grams of protein, which is comparable to about 2 eggs. There's lots of different types of collagen. I use one at the office that we have that's based in a beef collagen, but you can kind of use whatever, just make sure it's a good quality source. 11 grams of protein, and then I put a little like heavy whipping cream, or you can use a MCT oil or coconut oil, something like that. And then I'll put a little bit of stevia or sometimes like a half teaspoon of honey, raw honey in it. So that's my protein, fat, and carb. And that actually sustains me even better than eating a big meal at this point. I feel like it's cheating, but it works really well. And then the other piece with hypoglycemic people is you don't want to go too long. So try to eat, some people need to eat every 2 hours, every 3 hours. Sometimes you can go 4 hours. But again, when you go for a snack, don't just grab a handful of nuts, because that doesn't have any carbs. So eat maybe like a half an apple with a handful of nuts, or a little bit of dried fruit is okay, especially if you're breastfeeding or pregnant. Or like apple and cheese is fantastic. A slice of the Jarlsberg cheese, those pre-sliced, has 7 grams of protein. So if you do well with dairy, that's a great snack with like a small apple. And then again, for lunch, you want to have, I love leftovers. So whatever I ate the night before, which usually is some sort of kind of a little bit of meat with a lot of vegetables. Again, if you are a little bit, like if you're pregnant or postpartum, or your adrenal glands, which is that stress response system, is having a hard time, eating the carbs is important, because that will help your body feel like it's okay and it doesn't have to get all that stored glucose, stored sugar out of your liver. And so, again, it's not like I want you eating like refined foods and sugars, but don't be afraid of carbs. I feel like right now we're in this kind of paleo keto fad, and especially for my population, who are, younger women who are in the pregnancy, birth, and postpartum phases, even if, you're not breastfeeding anymore, even if your kids are, my youngest is 6 now, but I still really need to be cautious about keeping my blood sugar stable with using these tactics. Now I can extend not eating to like 4 or 5 hours, but really I do better if I eat every 4 hours or so. And that's what a lot of people have found, is doing 5 small meals a day is a really great idea to keep things stable. But the main thing we're trying to avoid is like, the bagel, right? Which is just carbohydrates. Maybe you have a little cream cheese. Hopefully it's not fat-free. Don't be afraid of fats. If fat doesn't make you fat, it's the carbs and the sugars and the bad oils, the trans fats and the canola, safflower, all those manufactured oils. So basically you want to, if when you eat a bagel, something like that, it's going to spike your blood sugar and it's going to drop, and then you're just going to go hypoglycemic again. So we really want to, if you're going to eat a bagel, it's not my preference, but if you are, you want to add enough protein, fat. So maybe eat half a bagel and half of avocado, and then put some turkey on it as well, or something like that. So we want to minimize carbohydrates. So how I do that is that when I go to serve myself up, if we're having rice and beans, say, I'll serve myself up the normal amount of beans, and then I'll just do like a quarter of the amount of rice, and then, emphasize those fats, and you'll just feel a lot better throughout the course of the day. Just eating regularly and eating the proper kind of ratios of protein, fats, and carbs. So my main message is I don't want you to be afraid of carbohydrates, but use them wisely. Don't just like jump on bagels and bread and these refined carb bandwagons, but things like quinoa and brown rice and, even brown rice cakes, if you really want to crunch, things like that can be helpful for getting your blood sugar up, or fruits. Fruits are a great carbohydrate source that will get your blood sugar up right away. Again, I don't want you eating fruit all day long, but doing like a small apple or blueberries to get your blood sugar up, and then make sure you balance that with the proteins and the fats. So you don't do just fruit, you want to do the combo of fruit, protein, and fat. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. It's pretty simple, and best of luck with that. I have handouts on my website, heatherhuntdc.com. That's heatherhuntdc.com. Thanks.